used to flank the Greek army.
What's up, people? My name's Klio. Today with me is Broken, one of my dear friends. We are going over the history of the Battle of Thermopylae and discussing the differences between what actually happened and the movie made by Zack Snyder.
That movie was made by Zack Snyder?
Yeah, and that should give you everything you need to know about it.
Yeah, no wonder it was as
in the
good as
movie
it was.
300, the Spartans are portrayed as ripped, half-naked warriors wearing no armor on their upper
I mean,
bodies,
look at
only
that.
helmets, often removed,
That's
red
a Zack
cloaks,
Snyder thing.
greaves,
The
and
lighting?
underwear. This depiction is
The lighting is fantastic, yes.
Spartans
like, that's
actually
a-
relied
that's a
heavily
Snyder
on
thing.
quality armor, though it varied based
Like,
on
I saw
each
the
soldier's
Snyder cuts with,
financial
like,
means.
Superman versus, like, the non-Snyder
Standard
cuts,
equipment
and it's
included
like,
a
holy,
Corinthian
like,
helmet
night-
with a
night and day.
distinctive crest and a
I didn't watch
custom
those.
plate designed to offer maximum
I've
protection against
seen,
stabbing and slashing attacks.
I think I saw
Many
the original
hoplites
one,
wore
and then I
lamella
saw
armor
clips of the
made of
Snyder
layered leather.
cut.
I never
not a
watched-
DC
Arrows
or
unless
a
fired
big
at
Marvel
close
fan.
range.
Like, I don't watch movies
While
like
not
that.
all Spartans
I
could
prefer
afford
my
full bronze armor, none went into battle
documentaries,
naked.
like
At the
well,
very
and like
least,
movie
they
series.
wore wool tunics called chitons, usually knee length. They also wore bronze greaves strapped to their legs for lower body protection. The most important piece of Spartan equipment was the round shield, aspis, a wooden shield covered in leather and later reinforced with bronze. Losing one's shield was considered the ultimate disgrace for a Spartan. Frank Miller, the creator of the comic book, admitted he removed the chest plates and armor skirts so the characters could move better and look cooler. Fully armored Spartans would have looked too similar on screen, making it harder to distinguish key characters. Thus, Leonidas alone wore a crested helmet to ensure audiences could always recognize the king.
Which is real in any old military.
Style, using tight
Hold up.
formation.
But that's also true in any old military. Your leaders traditionally would have some kind of difference about their armor.
Line marks,
Yeah. Because, like, you need to know who's giving commands and shit like that. So it could be
Yeah.
anything from being red to being black to being, well, as everybody else had white, you know.
Engravings and stuff. As
Yeah.
well. Like, and typically even engravings, like you had to be very wealthy for something like that.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing. In order to be armored in ancient civilization, you had to be wealthy. You know? The fucking price of a horse, it's one of the things that, like, people, I kind of have to point out to people. It's like, technically, like, Hades, the king of the underworld, not the god of death, the king of the underworld, his dominion is over wealth as well. Because any livestock came to him. Any gifts that you had in the mortal world came to him when you died. They made offerings to Hades using grain and sometimes sacrificing of livestock. And in order to make those sacrifices, you had to be wealthy. You know? It costs money to have a cow. You know?
And spears up to 4.5 meters long. Initially, soldiers held their spears underarm while at a distance, and overhead when engaging the enemy up close. Hoplites fought in a phalanx, a solid shielded wall of spears and men.
Hey, that's a Magic the Gathering card.
Formation against larger forces. This method was the core of Spartan military excellence. In the film, Spartans frequently break formation to run into one-on-one or 1vs many battles, which would have been suicidal in a real fight. Such behavior would never have occurred at Thermopylae, where cohesion and discipline were vital. The movie emphasizes individual heroism and visual flair over historical tactics, focusing on dramatic cinematography rather than accuracy. In the film 300, Xerxes is portrayed as a towering, godlike man covered in jewelry and piercings.
Here you go. Here's the answers to your question.
An overconfident ruler, relying solely on overwhelming numbers with no real strategic depth. His desire to conquer Greece is shown as absolute and ruthless. and he's willing to do anything to achieve victory. In reality, historical sources describe Xerxes as a normal height man with a beard. He was a cautious and strategic leader who carefully planned his invasion of Greece, even though it ultimately failed. Xerxes was also a cultured ruler who supported art, science, and architecture and presided over a flourishing period of construction and culture. He was a skilled politician who managed to keep the Persian Empire strong and unified. Unlike the film's portrayal, Xerxes never met Leonidas in person, and he certainly never led troops on the front line. In the film 300, the fearless Spartans fight not only against various human enemies, but also against elephants and a giant, hellishly enraged rhinoceros. These exotic animals were used in the film to symbolize the wealth and exoticism of the Persian Empire. Elephants are shown as towering, terrifying beasts used by the Persians to smash through Greek lines. While visually striking, there is no historical evidence that Persians used elephants or rhinoceroses at the Battle of Thermopylae. Instead, the Persians relied on cavalry, which made up about 20% of their army. Delios is a Spartan soldier who, in the film, loses an eye during the battle and is sent back to Sparta by King Leonidas to tell the story of Thermopylae. At the film's end, he appears as the leader of a united Greek army. Played by David Wenham, known for his role as Faramir in The Lord of the Rings, Delios is a compelling figure. However, Delios did not exist in reality.
Oh wait, question. Are you disappointed by the real Xerxes?
Oh, that he's not like pierced up. And, yeah.
Pierced up like a golf ball.
A normal height man. He's not a fucking like a wannabe goth muscle mommy. Like honestly, it'd be like the exact opposite, you know, because he like covered in gold, not black. Fucking obviously got a lot of metal, but then is like shirtless and buff.
Well, and kind of like what they said earlier, it's like, yeah, we removed the armor so you could, like, better tell who people were and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, but in our reality, Spartans were armor. They wore cuirasses and everything else. You know. So.
The story includes a few kernels of truth. According to Herodotus, 2 soldiers at Thermopylae suffered from eye infections. Their names were Aristodemus and Eurytus. King Leonidas ordered them to return to Sparta before the final battle. Only Aristodemus obeyed. Eurytus had his helots carry him back into the fight, where he died. Aristodemus returned to Sparta and was shunned as a coward, largely because Eurytus had chosen to return and die fighting. A year later, Aristodemus fought fiercely at the Battle of Plataea, reportedly with such reckless fury that he redeemed his honor among the Spartans, though he died in the battle. Because he broke formation and fought suicidally, he received no official honors, as Spartans preferred those who fought bravely but aimed to survive and fight again. The film presents an idealized and romanticized image of Sparta and its warriors, shown as fearless and devoted men, ready to sacrifice their lives for Sparta. It emphasizes their harsh discipline, rigorous training, and moral values. Spartan warriors are depicted as the epitome of virtue and courage. However, Sparta was also the largest slaveholding state in ancient Greece. Its society relied on a class of slaves known as helots, who made up a significant portion of the population. Helots were war captives, or their descendants, bound to the land they worked. They lived in family communities and could not be sold or bought like traditional slaves. They gave up 50% of their produce to the Spartans, keeping the rest for themselves to survive or trade. Spartans ritually humiliated, abused, and even killed helots. Massacres of helots were recorded. For instance, in 425 BCE, 2,000 helots were slaughtered after being falsely promised their freedom. During a ritual called Crypteia, Spartan youth were ordered to declare war on helots. These minimally armed squads would hide near helot villages by day and raid them by night, killing residents. Killing a helot was seen as a rite of passage into Spartan manhood. Helots also served as auxiliary troops and took part in the Battle of Thermopylae. The opening scene of the movie 300 shows an elder examining a newborn Spartan boy, dramatically standing on a cliff ledge above a pit of bones and skulls. The man says that if the child is small, sickly, or deformed, it is thrown from the cliff. This gruesome image comes from a single source, Plutarch, a Greek writer, historian, and philosopher. In his writings on Sparta, he claimed that newborns were inspected, and if deemed healthy and strong, they were assigned land and raised. If the baby was weak or deformed, it was taken to a steep place on Mount Taygetus.
So I know we discussed this idea earlier.
To be best for both child and state. Today, most people think of this story when asked about Spartan child rearing. However, recent studies challenge this narrative. Theodoros Pitzios, an anthropologist from the Athens Medical School, examined bones found at the base of Mount Taygetus. Analysis showed they belonged only to teenagers and adult males aged 18 to 35. The remains, dating to the 6th and 5th century BCE, were likely those of criminals or traitors, confirming other ancient accounts that Spartans executed prisoners by throwing them into the chasm. Pitzios concluded that the story of throwing infants was likely a myth popularized by Plutarch, written more than 500 years after Thermopylae.
So I know we discussed that earlier when discussing the idea of like morality with one of our things.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Like, in most cases...
I mean, I can still get behind that stuff, though. I mean...
Yeah, 100%. The idea of killing criminals and stuff, like, that's always been a part of history, period. But the idea of, like...
It's dangerous to be let back into society. I don't think we should be taking care of you, for one. And for two, I mean, like, it kind of feeds into that. If you're let back into society, I also feel like you deserve to have your rights back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. But the idea of sitting home being like, oh yeah, this is a sickly child, is like, well, okay, they're sick, so we can give them medicine, we can heal them. Because remember, this was also a time where, like, the idea of medicine and taking care of people and stuff like that was still a part of society. You know, you didn't just cast somebody aside because they were sick. You know, I don't think there's ever been a civilization where it's like, oh, you're sickly, you know, we gotta execute you now. I could be wrong, I don't know everything about history. This is Sparta! I'm curious about this, because I'm pretty sure, I'm 100%. You don't kill messengers.
No, you don't.
One of the most iconic scenes in the film is King Leonidas shouting, "This is Sparta," before kicking a Persian envoy into a well. In the movie, the envoy had asked for earth and water as a symbol of submission to the Persian Empire, but this scene never happened in real life. According to Herodotus, a similar event took place earlier, and after that incident, Xerxes never sent another envoy to Sparta. So while it makes for a memorable cinematic moment, it's pure fiction. In 300, there is no mention of another battle that took place at the same time, but in a different location, the Battle of Artemisium. Here, the navies of allied Greek city-states like Athens, Corinth, Sparta, and others fought against the fleet of the Persian Empire under King Xerxes. The Greek War Council, knowing the overwhelming number of enemy forces, decided it was essential to have two key battles, one on land and the other at sea. Athenian general Themistocles proposed that the united Greek forces block the Persian ground forces at the Thermopylae Pass and prevent their navy from advancing through the narrow Artemisium Strait between Euboea and the Greek mainland. In the film, we do see a Persian fleet destroyed by a storm, which did happen to part of the Persian navy, but the movie completely omits the fact that the Greek navy held off the Persians at Artemisium for 3 days, successfully blocking their advance by sea. The Greeks only withdrew after learning of the defeat at Thermopylae.
So, really quick here, there are 2 movies for 300. And in the second movie, it is focused more on the naval battles and such. But yes, what they did say is correct. In the original movie, because I think there's like a 5-year time period between movie 1 and movie 2 or something like that. But during the first movie, they do not really mention that there's a Navy battle. And then we go into 302, and it's... Oh yeah, there was a Navy battle, by the way, at the same time. So it's very questionable.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, well, now you're retconning your own goddamn story, people.
I didn't ever watch the second one.
A lot of people didn't. A lot of people didn't, because they watched the first one and was like, okay, well, you know, what are you gonna do now? Like, Leonidas is dead, like...
Yeah, the first one was... I mean, the first one was good enough. The first one was good enough. The second one, I believe it came out around the same time where there was a lot of other secondary movies, like number 2's coming out, and they all sucked.
I don't remember when it came out. What I do know is, like, even within the military, like the United States military, the movie 300 is used for, like, motivational purposes. We, at basic training in 2009 at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, because I can give dates and places, bitches, we were actually, before we went into learning about pugils, doing all pugilist training, we were sat down and made to watch 300. It fucking is. Like...
Not anything like good, like fucking Band of Brothers or fucking The Pacific. Nah, fucking...
They wanted to motivate us to hit each other with pugil sticks, which are essentially PVC pipes with boxing gloves on them, so you can't move your hands off of it, and padded pads at the end of it, that you can actually fuck somebody up with, by the way.
Oh, I imagine.
Rika, oh, don't fucking say that. I swear to God, I will mute you if you call us gooners again. Do not test me. I hate that fucking word. It's so fucking disgusting. Honestly, I should add that to my restricted word list. I hate that fucking word. Call me a pervert if you want, but don't call me a fucking gooner. I hate you. I hate you, Broken. I hate you. Fucking, you have the sound clip for it. I hate you. Oh, okay. I'll wait for you to get back so we can finish this. Exciting history lesson. Rico! See, all you had to do was just not sleep, and you can watch me stream. See? That's how simple it is. You just have to not sleep. I swear to God, if you came in and said one thing and left.
Okay, I've learned.
Alright, go. So, after this, we all gonna watch the infographics one, though. Because I'm sure we'll get... listening to two sources is always just a good thing. I was just about to sleep. You don't need to sleep, Rico.
To get like half a true story.
Oh yeah, that's the idea too. Rico, you don't need to sleep. Just stay up. Just don't sleep. Get an energy drink. Don't sleep. You don't need it. Broken, help me out here. We're No, we're gaslighting Chad into not sleeping.
Oh, not sleeping?
Yeah.
Sleep is for the weak, and this is the weekend. So
Yeah. Wait a minute. Alright, Leonidas.
In the film, Spartan King Leonidas appears as a young man in his 30s, but in reality, he was about 60 years old when he defended the pass at Thermopylae in 480 BCE. Leonidas also wasn't the only king of Sparta. Sparta was ruled by two hereditary kings from the Agiad and Eurypontid dynasties, both wielding equal power. This dual kingship, or diarchy, was a hallmark of Spartan politics. The kings primarily had religious, judicial, and military responsibilities. If one king led the army in war, the other had to remain in Sparta to manage political matters and defend the city.
Oh, that's interesting.
Still focusing on Leonidas. In the film, we see corrupt ephors forbid Leonidas from waging war against the Persians. The ephors were elected officials in the Spartan government who oversaw daily life, including education, military training, and citizen conduct. They also held power over the kings and could, in rare cases, condemn them to death. In the movie 300, Leonidas defies the ephors' decision and leaves with 300 men.
Yeah, I'm gonna be your background now.
In
Is
reality, the Spartans were well informed
Good
about
night,
enemy movements
me.
and knew
Good
they
night,
had to send
Riku.
forces into battle. However, this coincided with the Carnea, a religious festival honoring Apollo, during which
Yeah.
no warfare was permitted. Still, the Spartans couldn't afford to appear cowardly or uncommitted. So they sent King Leonidas and his personal guard to delay the Persians until the full army could march after the festival ended. The rest of the Spartan army planned to depart as soon as the celebrations ended, hoping to arrive in time, but, as history tells us, they didn't make it. And that's how the real Battle of Thermopylae unfolded. Which difference from the film surprised you the most? Would you like to hear more stories about historical figures we mostly know from movies or TV series? Let us know in the comments.
So, and that is something I actually just learned because of a fucking anime. The Battle of Cornelius, which is a festival for the sun god Apollo. So,
let me
and
guess, burning people was a pretty big thing back then.
I don't think that was part of the festivities. No,
No, they had to have been burning something for the sun god. They're burning something.
I'm going to assume you probably made offerings the same you made offerings to every other Greek god, which is you throw in some grains, you throw gold into, maybe some gold, maybe some animals, things like that. But traditionally, like, human sacrifices, I don't believe were really a part of too many.
I mean, the only ones that were guaranteed were like the Mayans, Egyptians,
Yeah.
and like I think there was a couple in like Eurasia.
Well, so not so much. I don't know exactly the Mayans, but I know the Aztecs did.
Yeah, Aztec. My bad. Not
You're
Mayans.
good. You're good. Because we learn about the Mayans, the Incas, and the Aztecs all in like 2 weeks of school.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that like we don't know.
Well, what's fucked up is right after I learned about like the Mayans, Incas, and Aztecs, I went right into learning about the fucking Spanish too.
Yeah,
So
and
it
it's
was just
like,
like, oh, fantastic! I'm gonna learn about Native American and South American history, and then I'm gonna learn about fucking conquistadors. Superb.
right, and then we don't even really learn all that we should be learning because it's like Columbus. It's like Columbus waged genocide because he went to he never touched mainland goddamn America in any aspect, north or south.
He hit Cuba.
He hit the Caribbeans, yeah. He hit the Caribbeans, was like, I want gold, and they were like, we don't know what that is. So he killed them. And it's like, you're fucked up.
Not only that, Columbus was like cast out of Spain.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Like
He wasn't
on a journey to like for exploration. He was cast out and said, if you're coming back, you better come back with something.
Yeah. Alright, so now we're going into video 2.
Leonidas and his 300 Spartan warriors are surrounded by Persian forces. The Spartans deflect blow after blow with their shields as enemy soldiers crash against them like a wave in a storm. Spears shoot out of the Spartan line like lightning, tearing through enemy flesh, but they are vastly outnumbered. Many begin to fall. Shields are splintered, spears.
Are you sure they didn't have cameras back then?
Leonidas and his 300 Spartans retreat up a hill to make their final stand. Suddenly, an arrow
They could have had some really fast, like, draws or scribes.
as his blood soaks into the earth around him. The Battle of
I'm gonna pause this so I can make a stupid joke. But I want you to imagine, you just got like some scribes up on the hill watching the battle, and it's like, Leonidas takes a blow to his left hip. He counters by delivering a blow to his rival's jaw, paralyzing them, sending him to the ground before stabbing them with a spear. This happens. It just sounds like a fight announcer.
I'm picturing a very crappy flip book that's also large. Like, imagine going to the Sistine Chapel and
as soon as you said a crappy flip book, oh my god, it's glorious. I love it. You just got one person draws this scene, one person draws this scene.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it'd be funny as fuck.
It's just on like a big ass rotary, like a rotating door.
Well, no, I know what you're referring to. You're referring to the bibliographs where it's like an entire book that's in a wheel, and you rotate the wheel. Yeah, that's what you're referring to as the idea, and I love that so fucking much. Oh god, that's glorious.
I'm about to make a name for myself here.
Alright, let's keep going.
Inspiring fights of all time. But how much of what we see on the big screen and TV is actually true? Not everything you've watched or read about the Battle of Thermopylae is correct, but some truths are even more incredible than the dramatizations of Hollywood. The invasion of Greece by the Persians was predicated on revenge more than anything else. Xerxes, the ruler of the Persian Empire, had lived with the brutal defeat of his father's forces by the Greeks at the Battle of Marathon. His father was Darius, king of everything, and everyone from Egypt to West India. But he never managed to conquer the Greeks. The inability to defeat the Greeks was both a devastating blow and a humiliating blunder for the ruling family of Persia. Xerxes was determined to crush the insolence of the Greeks once and for all. 10 years after the failed invasion of Greece by Darius, Xerxes would launch his own campaign into the heart of the country to the west. This time, however, the Spartans of legend would join the battle. There would be so much bloodshed and destruction during the Battle of Thermopylae that the final stand of the 300 would never be forgotten. In 480 BCE, Xerxes and his forces began marching toward the center of Greece toward Athens. At the time, many Greek city-states were warring with one another. But when Athens received word of their impending doom at the hands of the Persians, they pleaded with the other Greek city-states to form an army to stop the invasion force. The Athenians had been able to fend off Darius and his forces in the past, but Xerxes commanded an army many times larger than his father. Surprisingly, Sparta answered Athens' plea for help. Up until that point, Sparta had stayed out of conflicts with Persia, but the leaders of the great city-states saw this new threat to their people and land as too great to ignore, and decided the Persians must be stopped at all costs. From scouting missions and allies to the east, the Greeks received word that Xerxes' army was enormous. It was estimated that he commanded somewhere between 100,000 and 300,000 men. This military force would be much harder to defeat than the one Darius had brought with him a decade earlier. If the Greeks were not prepared, this would spell the end of democracy and their very way of life. Sparta knew that the only way Greece would be able to survive this invasion would be if they could gather soldiers from across the city-states together, but this would take time. It was decided that the only possibility for success would be if Xerxes' forces could be slowed down, giving Greece more time to organize their defenses. Scouts were sent across the lands of Greece to find a location to make a stand, someplace where the number of soldiers Xerxes had wouldn't matter. Tensions were high as some Greek city-states refused to join the cause, while others blatantly backed the Persian forces and welcomed their new overlords. But Sparta and Athens would not let the progress they'd made and the freedoms their people enjoyed be taken away by a foreign power. The scouts eventually returned with a location that suited their needs. There was a narrow pass at Thermopylae that the Persian army would need to pass through to get from northern Greece into the center where Athens and Sparta were located. Thermopylae also sat near waterways that connected mainland Greece to the Aegean Sea, which meant Athens' formidable navy would be able to hold off Persian ships and prevent any forces from landing on the shores behind Thermopylae. This would stop the Persians from circling behind the Greek forces deployed at the narrow pass, making sure the only way into central Greece was by land. It was the best possible location for a defense, and the Greeks' only hope for slowing down the swarm of Persian soldiers approaching their lands. However, this location was literally the spitting image of hell. The location was named Thermopylae, which translates to hot gates, because the landscape was filled with hot sulfur springs. This created an eerie mist that covered parts of the battlefield and a terrible smell. A more ominous location could not have been chosen even if they'd tried. The Greeks' plan to slow Xerxes now had its foundation.
See, we didn't know that.
Xerxes was already close, and there wasn't enough time
Yeah,
to send all
did
of the
not
Greek
know
army.
that.
Yeah, no, the other video didn't tell us about why it was known as the Hot Gates. I've known it was the Hot Gates since the movie 300, but I never fucking knew why it was called the Hot Gates.
To Thermopylae. In fact, many city-states still didn't think there was an invasion force coming at all. It also didn't help that the Olympics and several important religious festivals were happening at the end of the summer, which would be at the same time that Xerxes' forces would reach the Hot Gates. Many city-states were so focused on these other events that they couldn't be bothered by something as trivial as a massive invasion force knocking on their front door. Sparta decided they couldn't wait for the rest of Greece to come to their senses. They
It's
needed
crazy
to
that
send
the
a force to
Olympics
secure the
were
Hot Gates
on
and give
then.
the rest of the city-states time to organize their militaries. After weighing their
Yeah,
options, Sparta determined that they
it is very crazy that the Olympics were happening at around the same time. So,
needed to send one of their 2 kings and a force of 300 elite soldiers to Thermopylae to hold the Hot Gates as long as possible. The king chosen for this mission was Leonidas.
Sorry, buds,
But
I
before
can't
he could
perform
head out,
discus. I
Sparta
gotta go
needed to
fight
speak with the
at-
oracle at Delphi.
at Thermopylae.
This was not an uncommon occurrence. The oracle needed to be consulted
Fuck.
before going to war and making major decisions. However, when the oracle looked into the future, they had bad news for the Spartans. The oracle foretold that the Persians would destroy either Sparta as a whole, or one of the kings of Sparta would need to die. When this prophecy reached Leonidas, he did not hesitate for a moment. He would gladly lay down his own life if it meant securing victory for Sparta. Now that the oracle had been consulted, Leonidas needed to select his 300 soldiers and head to Thermopylae to prepare for battle. It seems likely that Leonidas knew that he and his forces would not be making it back alive, as he only chose men who had already had a male heir to carry on their family lineage. Spartan warriors fought until victory or death, and since they were so outnumbered and the main objective was to slow Xerxes down as much as possible, no one was coming home. Also, Leonidas had the oracle's prophecy to contend with. Unless he somehow managed to defeat 100,000 men with his 300 Spartans and a handful of other Greek soldiers, he would need to fight to the death in order to ensure the prophecy was fulfilled and Sparta itself did not fall. Sparta recruited as many other soldiers as possible for the mission from their allies and the surrounding area. The Athenians were in charge of protecting the seas, so they could only offer a limited number of soldiers upon land. Upon departure for Thermopylae, Leonidas had his army of 300 Spartan soldiers and around 7,000 other men, made up of Athenians, 1,000 Phocians, 700 Thespians, and 400 Thebans. The force marched from central Greece to Thermopylae. The stage was set for the greatest battle in ancient history. In late July or early August of 480 BCE, Leonidas and his forces reached the Hot Gates and set up their defenses. They were a few days ahead of the Persians, which gave them time to scout out the area and make sure everyone knew what to do during battle. The Spartans were hardened warriors who had fought in wars before. However, the same could not be said about all the soldiers that made up the rest of Leonidas' resistance force. The pass through the Hot Gates was approximately 20 to 100 meters across. On one side was a sheer cliff that dropped into a sea below. On the other were impenetrable, jagged mountains. With his 300 Spartans at the front and in key positions along the opening of the pass, Leonidas could fend off the oncoming Persian forces. The narrowness of the Hot Gates rendered the number advantage that Xerxes had over the Greeks almost completely useless, and would mean that his cavalry wouldn't be able to outflank Greek forces. But would this be enough to allow Leonidas and his men to slow the Persian army? Only time would tell. Up until this point, Xerxes and his military had met little resistance. They had marched across the Persian Empire, crossed the Dardanelles Strait on 2 pontoon bridges, and made their way through northern Greece to Thermopylae. As Leonidas waited for the Persian army to reach the Hot Gates, he sent men out to scout the area. Everything seemed to be going according to plan. The Spartans and their allies were eating and preparing themselves for battle when one of the scouts frantically returned to the camp. He had terrible news. A hidden path in the mountains led from where the Persians would be camped to behind the Greek line. If the Persians discovered the trail, they'd be able to surround the Greeks and massacre them. Leonidas didn't have enough men to fend off attacks from both the front and the back of his resistance force. Leonidas sent 1,000 Phocians to guard the path in case the Persians discovered it. When Xerxes and his forces finally arrived at Thermopylae, they decided to wait 4 days before commencing their attack. One reason for this was to give the Persian troops time to rest, but Xerxes also had something else in mind. He was almost positive that when the Greeks saw the size of his army, they'd run away in fear. Much to the dismay of Xerxes, this did not happen. The Spartans had no intention of giving up Thermopylae and letting the Persians pass without a fight. After waiting a few days to see if the Greeks would just give up, Xerxes sent an envoy to ask Leonidas to lay down his arms. According to the philosopher Plutarch, Leonidas' response was, "Come and take them." Xerxes did not receive this defiance very well and decided it was time to prepare for battle. Before launching his first attacks, he sent scouts to see how the Spartans were doing in preparation for battle. Their report shocked the Persian king. The scouts had found the Spartans exercising naked and grooming each other's hair. The reason for this likely had to do with the religious and funerary beliefs of the Spartans. Since Spartan soldiers fought until they were victorious or dead, they needed to ensure their bodies were prepared for the afterlife. Therefore, before a battle, they would groom each other. Another little-known fact about the way Spartans looked was that all Spartan men shaved their upper lip. Like most Greek men, they still let their beards grow long, but the upper lip was always shaved. 5 days after arriving in Thermopylae, Xerxes ordered his troops forward. He was sure that the superior numbers would make quick work of the small Greek force, so he initially sent only his most mediocre soldiers into battle. Xerxes quickly found out that this was a huge mistake. The Spartans' fighting ability was unmatched by any other soldiers in the field. The Greeks had been practicing their tactics on the rough terrain of Thermopylae for several days, which also gave them a slight advantage. They used a phalanx formation, which was extremely effective in the tight spaces of the hot gates, and the Greek warriors would stand shoulder to shoulder, forming a wall of shields in front of them. Wave after wave of Persian soldiers crashed against the Greek line, but it did not break. The phalanx was so successful because the Greek shields were stronger than the Persian weapons, and their spears provided a further reach. The Persians were using short javelins and wicker shields. These definitely provided them an advantage in open field combat as they offered more mobility, but in the tight quarters of Thermopylae, these weapons were just not as effective against the heavily armed Spartans. It seemed that no matter what they did, the Persians couldn't get past the front line of the Greeks. Leonidas and his Spartans were fierce. They would patiently wait for a buildup of Persian soldiers against their shields, and then use their spears from further back to decimate any enemy who left themselves vulnerable to attack. Imagine being a Persian soldier and watching line after line of your comrades die at the hands of Spartan warriors. Each wave of attack brings you closer to the deadly phalanx. You find yourself facing...
One thing that's not being discussed here is literally the length of these fucking weapons. Like, they all severely undercutting the size difference of what a phalanx lance is.
Like a javelin's probably like 6 or...
No, a javelin is usually traditionally like, think a javelin for like throwing in the Olympics. That's a javelin.
Yeah,
right?
It's like maybe 6 feet. Maybe.
Maybe. I don't even think it's that big.
Yeah. The lances that the Spartans have are like...
Huge. Yeah, they're 12 fucking feet. They are designed to not only, when you have a phalanx, should the forced spills being out, but we are discussing like 3 rows of spills hitting you before you even touch the forced shield.
Yeah. On top of that, on top of the spears hitting you, they're like dug into the ground as well. Like they're not just holding them. Like they're just holding them at the angle because the ass end of that spear is in the ground.
Yeah.
So like even if you're on a horse, you're impaled, like that horse and you will get impaled together.
Yep.
Like a big shish kebab before that fucking pole gets pulled out the ground.
And on top of that, those were the spills behind the forced set, because the forced set of spills were spills held by the people. And these would be ones that's like, oh, you're getting too close, stab.
Yep.
You know, and then the second row would be the same way, where it's like, oh, you're getting too close, stab. You know.
Yeah, and then you get like 3-4 rows back, and it's just like big old sticks.
Yeah.
After witnessing the carnage that the Spartans unleashed, after hours of battling, the ground was soaked in Persian blood while the Greeks sustained minor casualties. Xerxes realized he needed to try a different tactic and ordered his archers to release a barrage of arrows at the Spartan forces. Unfortunately for the Persians, their arrows were about as effective as their soldiers were against the Greek shields and armor, which is to say they had little to no effect at all. For 2 days, everything went according to plan for Leonidas and his army. Even Xerxes' most elite fighters, the Immortals, couldn't defeat the Spartans and their allies. This group of soldiers got its name from the ability to immediately replace casualties, making it seem that their numbers never diminished. However, the Greeks' luck was about to change. It was said that during the first 2 days of battle, the Spartans and other Greek forces killed over 10,000 Persian soldiers. They sustained some of their own casualties, but most of the Greek force was still strong and could continue fighting indefinitely. Xerxes watched the battle from his golden throne atop a nearby hill. He became so enraged at the defeat of his soldiers, he jumped up from his seat and screamed in anger. This was unbecoming for a ruler who was seen as a god by his followers. Leonidas and his 300 Spartans.
And we know from the last video that that's no. Like, Darius, whatever the Persian's king name was not at the front lines.
Nope.
Warriors and the other Greek soldiers had done the impossible. They'd stopped the Persian war machine in its tracks. During the second day of the Battle of Thermopylae, a local Greek shepherd by the name of Ephialtes asked for an audience with Xerxes. He told the guards he had information that would allow the Persians to defeat the Spartans. At this point, Xerxes had lost all patience. It seemed that the wall of Greek soldiers would not be broken. He was ready to try anything. Ephialtes eventually got his meeting with Xerxes, and in exchange for a huge sum of money, he told the Persian emperor of the Anopaia path that went through the mountains and ended up behind the Greek defensive line. Xerxes dispatched his Immortals to encircle Leonidas and his forces. By cover of night, they left the Persian camp and traveled through the mountains. When the Immortals reached the 1,000 Phocians Leonidas had ordered to guard the mountain pass, they quickly defeated them. Some accounts say the Phocians didn't even put up a fight but ran away in fear as they spotted the enemy soldiers. Either way, the Persians were coming. Luckily, word reached Leonidas before the enemy forces did. The Spartan king ordered his men and the rest of the Greek forces to retreat further south to make their final stand. But before the battle would take place, Leonidas did something that would secure his name in the history books forever. Leonidas decided that all of the Greek soldiers could leave the battle and return home to fight another day. However, he and his 300 Spartans would stay and hold off the Persians as long as possible, taking as many with them before they were killed. Along with the Spartans, a group of Thebans would also stay and fight, but the remaining soldiers were to be sent back to their cities to tell the tale of Leonidas and the 300 Spartans who defied a Persian king and slaughtered thousands of his men. It would seem that Leonidas would indeed fulfill the prophecy of the oracle. As the sun rose on the third day of the Battle of Thermopylae, Leonidas gathered his men. They all knew what was to come, and they were happy to die for their king and for Sparta. Leonidas looked at each of them in turn before the day got underway, at which point he said, "Have a hearty breakfast, for tonight we dine in Hades." Later that night, the Immortals arrived from the mountain pass, and a huge force of Persian soldiers advanced through the hot gates toward the Spartans. There are two different accounts of what happened next in the epic tale of Leonidas and his 300 warriors. Ephorus and Diodorus Siculus say that, like a dangerous beast trapped in a corner, Leonidas decided to do something unpredictable and attack first. In this scenario, the Spartans charged into the Persian camp and slaughtered a large number of soldiers before being pushed back. The other account by Herodotus states that the Persians struck first, but not before Xerxes presented an offering to the gods for his generals before launching the final attack that would wipe out the Spartans. Either way, the outcome of what came next was the same. Leonidas and his men repositioned themselves in an open area where they'd be able to move around better and kill as many Persian soldiers as possible. As the Immortals closed in on one side and the rest of Xerxes' forces moved in on the other, the Spartans began fighting in a frenzied manner. They did not forget their training, but used every method at their disposal to rip through the Persians. As their spears broke off inside of enemy soldiers and their shields shattered from slamming into the bodies of the Immortals, the Spartans drew their swords and began to slash their way through the Persian ranks. It was a bloodbath, but there were just too many Persians. Less than 300 Spartans and a handful of other Greek soldiers remained against the might of the entire Persian army. Xerxes still had tens of thousands of soldiers at his disposal, while there was no hope for reinforcements or relief from the Greeks. During the carnage, Leonidas fell. His men surrounded their king and fought off the hordes of enemy soldiers. They managed to grab Leonidas and pull his body to safety until he passed away from the wounds. At the time of the Battle of Thermopylae, Leonidas was somewhere between 50 and 60 years old. He was by no means a young man, but Spartan warriors started their training as teenagers and would serve in the military until their 60s, so it's not surprising that Leonidas was still fighting at this age. The fact that he killed so many enemies while also commanding a Greek troop at the Battle of Thermopylae makes him one of the most respected warriors of all time. Even after Leonidas fell, the Spartans that remained continued to fight. They had fallen back to higher ground and used a protective wall to slow the onslaught of enemy troops. Many of them had lost their swords, shields, and spears, so they fought with their bare hands. An unarmed Spartan warrior was still a deadly adversary. The Persians knew this, and even after breaking down the Spartan protective wall,
The Spartans fought with their shields too.
Advance. The Persian soldiers could see in the eyes of the Spartans that if they got too close, they would very likely lose their lives. So the Persians took the easy way out.
Let's talk about that real quick. The Spartan shield weighed about 30 fucking pounds and was made of brass and wood. Oh, sorry, bronze and wood.
Yeah.
It
Bunch
was
of wood
a
laid
weapon.
over with a sheet of bronze.
Yeah, it was a weapon in its
100
own fucking right. And even like after the 300 movie came out, there were some channels on like the History Channel. They actually covered the idea of like this thing is a fucking menace, because not only would like bashing it straight on fuck you up and put you into a daze, but delivering a punch with it would absolutely sunder.
It could cave in a skull. It could break ribs. Like
It was a weapon.
yeah.
And it's not just true for the Spartans, it's true for almost every, oh, not every, but a decent amount of shields from ancient times. They were weapons. They used them not just as, oh, I'm going to hold this in front of my body and use it to protect me. It was, no, I'm going to use this and my enemy gets too close. Shove, shove, punch, punch.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Rather than trying to defeat the Spartans in hand-to-hand combat, they used bows and arrows to kill the remaining warriors. This may seem like a cowardly thing to do, but after witnessing how much damage and death the Spartans had caused over the last 3 days, they probably wanted to stay as far away from them as possible. A barrage of arrows was fired into the remaining Spartans, killing them all. Now that the defiant Spartans had been defeated, Xerxes could move freely across the battlefield without fear of being killed. He did not fight alongside his soldiers like Leonidas did. Once the Battle of Thermopylae ended, Xerxes had Leonidas' head cut off and his body impaled on a stake. After Xerxes and his forces moved on, Greek citizens recovered the bodies of the dead soldiers, including Leonidas, and buried them at Thermopylae. After the Persian War ended, a stone monument in the shape of a lion was erected on the spot where the 300 Spartans were buried. On it, the words, "Go tell the Spartans, thou that passest by, that here obedient to their words we lie," were written by the poet Simonides. Basically, he was saying that the 300 Spartans who said they would fight to the death to slow the advance of the Persian army were true to their word. Now, to be fair, several Spartan soldiers died in the battle before the final stand. Also, King Leonidas allowed 2 Spartans who were ill to return home instead of forcing them to fight in the final battle. One refused to leave and was killed with the rest, while the other, a man named Aristodemus, did return home to Sparta. However, once he reached the city, he instantly regretted his decision. From the moment Aristodemus stepped foot in Sparta, he was shunned by everyone in the city. The fact that he had abandoned his duty and left his king to die on the battlefield was unforgivable. Aristodemus was stripped of his civic rights and had to carry his disgrace as a coward for the rest of his life. Luckily for Aristodemus, that wouldn't be very long. The next year, he joined a campaign to fight the Persians once again at the Battle of Plataea. It was said Aristodemus fought like a madman as he wanted to make up for his shameful decision to leave the Battle of Thermopylae. He ran to the front lines in a rage-filled fury and slashed apart the Persian ranks until he was finally brought down and killed. There is no doubt that Leonidas, his 300 Spartans, and other Greek soldiers who fought in the Battle of Thermopylae slowed down the Persian advance through Greece. There was a much more important effect that the battle had on the Greek populace. After the story of the 300 spread across the lands of Greece, more and more people felt it was their duty to fight. This was a matter of pride for many, and a way to avenge the deaths of the 300 Spartans who had fallen at the Battle of Thermopylae. It was also clear at this point that the Persians were coming for everyone, and all men who could fight needed to do so. The Spartans stopped the Persian forces at the Hot Gates for several days and did significant damage to their ranks and morale. The Persian soldiers who fought against Leonidas and his 300 Spartans would not soon forget how vicious and deadly they were. As Xerxes' armies marched into Greece, they were met by an even larger Spartan force, which must have been incredibly intimidating. The victories at Salamis and Plataea led to the Greeks finally defeating the invading Persian force and pushing them out of their borders. The sacrifice made by the men at the Battle of Thermopylae was definitely a call to arms for many Greeks. Without it, the Persians may very well have conquered the rest of Greece and enveloped it into their empire. Around 440 BCE, decades after the Persian Wars were over, the bones of Leonidas were dug up and brought back to Sparta. His tomb still exists where the modern city of Sparta is today. Now watch Most Hardcore Soldier, Spartan, or check out one Navy SEAL versus the Spartan 300. Who actually would win?
Yeah, the Navy SEAL, they have a gun.
Yeah, like
That's not a question. That's not a question we have to ask. That's so stupid. I always.
Like, do you think like
Do you think this
Victoria
ancient fighting
fucking-
force could beat the Navy SEALs? In numbers, yes, because
Yeah.
like you have to reload. But if you give
that man a machine gun with a belt and he solos?
you get 2 machine gunners. Oh, my favorite. How about a goddamn helicopter? Because Navy SEALs often use helicopters to get around, and those helicopters have miniguns on them, or they're Apaches, or not Apaches, little birds, which have missiles, miniguns, and a wide variety of equipment. Like, shut up. I'm sorry, I meant anime. So, is there only 2?
Do what?
I'm looking for like Leonidas in anime. I think there's only like 2 actual accounts for it. So one is Fate, which absolutely obliterate. They don't care about myth. They focus on mythology, not actual history. 100%.
Right.
So here's this.
Their tale is after he survived the Battle of Thermopylae and single-handedly beat all of the Persians.
No. So the anime Fate focuses on the ideology of noble spirits becoming solvents for mages to fight in what is traditionally known as the Holy Grail War. Right? Which is a 7-person death battle, and whoever wins gets the Holy Grail and can make a wish from it. Right?
Right.
So in this case, we have Leonidas, a heroic spirit, and every heroic spirit has a ultimate ability, which is based on something they did in real life. So, despite the fact that we all know that Vlad the Impaler was not a vampire, in Fate, his ultimate ability is him becoming a vampire, which he absolutely fucking hates. To the point where he tells his master, the mage that controls him, if you ever force me to use my ultimate ability, I will kill you first. I hate it, I despise it, go fuck yourself.
I learned something about Vlad the Impaler the other day, and I can't remember what it was. It was like a little tidbit of information that was kind of neat.
So this is Leonidas.
Vlad the Impaler wasn't actually a bad guy. I'm kidding.
He was a king. I'm pretty sure he was a bad guy. Alright. So this is Leonidas in Fate voicing a Gorgon. Sorry, I don't have subtitles on. And again, you're fighting a Gorgon and looking directly at her. So, you know, what you get is what you get. And then you have Leonidas as displayed in Records of Ragnarok Season 3. I'm gonna have to keep this muted because of sounds. But...
Oh, I was like trademarked and shit?
yeah, I will get trademarked for the sound most likely.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's like some of the shit in like Rainbow Six. Like there's like on Clubhouse, like streamers who are playing on Clubhouse, they have to have like their music volume turned off, otherwise they'll get fucking copyright strikes.
It's amazing. It's so great.
Playing a video game
You
while
have to
streaming, it's
you
the
have to
in-game
petition
audio.
it. If I play like Star Wars and stuff like that, I still get copyright strikes, and then I have to go in and petition it, and be like, yeah, but it was part of the game.
Yeah.
And it's just so
That's
god dang
not even
annoying.
guaranteed that they'll be like, yeah, no, sure, okay.
But in this
We
case,
understand.
in this anime, you have Leonidas, who is in Valhalla, and he's been chosen to represent humanity in a fight against the gods in Ragnarok, which is I think it's a 10v10 fight or something. But essentially, like, the gods put out 10 people, humans put out 10 people, and Leonidas is chosen to be one of them. And literally, one of Leonidas' big things is he's going against Apollo, the sun god, and you know why that's important, right?
I mean, they worshipped him.
Not just that, but also remember the festival that was happening at the time of the Persian invasion?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was...
For Apollo.
yeah, it was for Apollo, so it's like... quite literally... I want to find it. Show me the full fight. Perfect. Also, can we discuss the smoking?
Legends tell of the Battle of Thermopylae in 480 BC, a historic battle where 300 Spartan soldiers faced off against 300,000 Persian soldiers. It is said these warriors are an unyielding force of nature. They are Spartans, and he is their king, a man who kneels to neither man nor god. The strongest king
Smoking and wearing like fucking modern camouflage.
This man is wearing... yeah. Well... shit, I should show you Nikola Tesla after this one.
Why do the other gods love him so much? Is it his silver bow and arrow that slew the legendary serpent Python? Or the enchanted melodies produced by his lyre? No, no, no! It is because of his overwhelming beauty and strength, illuminating all the heavens. This is the alluring sun god who...
It was quite cowardly.
Wait. Here we go. You said to fight. He fought.
His attack coincided perfectly with the official signal to begin the battle.
That wasn't very beautiful. It was quite cowardly. A sneak attack relying on brute force, like a dog that can't heal. Very animalistic, but I'd expect nothing less from a human.
I like how this is like 2 times speed.
A savage beast would never learn. It doesn't matter how much brute force you use against me.
Not bad, Gramps.
So, because you don't know, the spirit you see here is a Valkyrie, and she has taken a connection with Leonidas, becoming the shield that he's using. Because this is the only way that man can fight God.
Not bad, Gramps.
Avoid conflict.
I feel like they wanted to have somebody who was like Wolverine, as far as like icon,
Its power is called Spear
know what I mean?
Charger.
as an icon.
Oh, but I'm not finding.
All eyes on me, okay?
I'm not finding the. It's not showing the thing I want to show you, if that makes sense. Which is. God damn it. The literal beginning of this is like Apollo sitting there. It's like, why do you hate me so much? He's like, because you're a fucking arrogant prick, and blah 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 blah. And it literally is just like the reason that Leonidas doesn't like the fact he got put up against Apollo is quite literally the fact that it's like, well, yeah, you're the reason that I had to die because of your fucking stupid festival.
Yeah.
And it's like, God, it's funny. But like, unfortunately, you know, it is Leonidas, it is man versus God. You know.
You bunch of dumbasses. All right, Garaloo. Let's do this. It's changing form again! Alethea Sparta!
And shatters the enemy lines.
What incredible power. I can't thank you enough. Made me dig deep. Increasing my beauty.
You should watch this anime, it's really good.
There's more to the myth of Apollo. The tale of how Phoebos Apollo sundered the walls of Argos. Shining as bright as the sun itself, he knocked himself upon the bow of Artemis, becoming a deadly silver arrow and delivering a mighty blow.
Oh, is he really going to try to break that shield head on? Will be put against the strongest shield of humanity? Alexander! Agilocopter!
My face gets
One more punch! Here you go, pretty boy! Got me, didn't you? But that cocky face of yours is still pissing me off. Hey, men. I hope you were all watching.
Yes! Giglionitis! From the first moment we met, you've always been, always, the fucking coolest Spartan ever!
Is that so? Well, that's a relief. The strongest soldiers are Spartans.
He rebelled against fate itself. A man who lived his life more selfishly than any other. And yet,
All right, beauties. Both of you were so exceptionally beautiful.
he was loved by all.
The final battle between God and man! Ragnarok Round 9 has its winner! Apollo!
Oh, wait. Nope. Now, where am I gonna get a copyright strike from this? Probably. Do I care? No.
Oh no, you can't make money off of one of your streams.
Oh no, I don't make money anyways.
Oh.
Do you know how much?
Hold on. I got something for that. Give me a second.
Yeah. Play your
Where-
soundboard.
It's close. It's close to the other one I had. Where is it? I was looking at it.
Oh god, here we go.
Hold on. I can tell you. I got 475 sounds. It's not easy to find some. I can't find it. That's fine.
You can't find it. That's fine.
No. I'll find it at some point, and it'll be useful somewhere else.
I just don't know how to express myself sometimes when I need to be properly different. Fuck.
I'm pretty sure that's not it.
No, not that one.
Like how this guy's saying the biggest record of Ragnarok failure. I don't know what exactly he means by that, but
against the final Greek god Apollo, someone who had to grind his way up to become a god of many things. However, upon revealing to the king that he's next, the mad lad said he doesn't feel like it, seeing himself as worthy to fight only first or last, possibly meaning against the likes of Thor or Odin, but once revealing that Apollo is next for the gods, his interest peaked. Having prior beef with this god and
yeah. Prior beef with this god.
ready to take him out in the name of Sparta. He is ready as Sparta is the strongest of people and gave birth to the strongest of kings. However, this fight notices
Here we go.
him alive, where there was a ceremony that
So the Cornelia bit, which I'm gonna look into next. Oh.
celebrated the glory of Apollo, with this oracle being passed down through generations. This is where Leonidas was different, claiming that he's never met or seen a god, therefore I refuse to entrust my life to them, becoming humanity's strongest rebel and destroying the statue of Apollo. Explaining his one-sided beef with the god, all things considered, but before their fight even begins, we learn that the other gods don't really like Apollo, but have to accept that he is strong, with us seeing that he does not care about the defeat of Poseidon, Hercules and Hades, fellow Greek gods, with him being the representation of overwhelming strength and beauty, something that dominated his king since the very start. We see both human and god looking at one another. The announcer calls the beginning of round 9 and Leonidas begins with a charge. He jumps into the air and attempts landing on Apollo, but the Greek god managed to avoid it. Then his divine weapon, the shield, begins to transform.
In which we don't need to go over this because, I mean, we've went over this. But hey, look, Spartan religious festivals. Because we don't care about the new one.
In the ancient world, festivals were common expressions of religious belief and religiosity. While it was focused on the military, the famous city-state of Sparta had its own fascinating festivals involving musical instruments, animal sacrifices, and naked dancing.
Yee, there we go, Broken.
Talking about Sparta's most important festivals, the Hyacinthia, the Gymnopaedia, and the Carnea. This is Spartan religious festivals with all things history.
Thank you.
I have the meeting of the founding fathers on a shirt, but instead
first
of
religious festival
signing the Declaration of Independence, they're all gathered around a keg with red Solo cups.
I think I've seen that meme somewhere.
It's American as fuck. It's a website, and they got some funny shit on
it.
it.
Festival taking place in Amyclae, which was a city of ancient Laconia, the Spartan region, situated on the western bank of the Eurotas River. The first day was dedicated to mourning the death of the hero, Hyacinthus, and Greek legend has it that the beauty of Hyacinthus attracted the love of Apollo, who then accidentally killed him while teaching him to throw the...
Okay, so this is one we care about.
Important Spartan festivals was the Carnea. The festival was celebrated in honor of Apollo Carneos, meaning Ram Apollo. It was a musical contest that was organized by randomly selected unmarried young men. The festival involved a chase where the great cluster runners would chase a runner wearing sacrificial ribbons. According to Spartan tradition, the city would be blessed with good luck if they caught him, and a bad omen would be on the society if they had failed. Now, there is some evidence to suggest that the omens from the Carnea could affect the quality of produce and crops from the years to come. In the second part of the festival, 9 tents were set up in the country, and each of which 9 citizens, representing their respective tribes, feasted together in honor of the god Apollo. But that brings us to the end of this video on Spartan festivals. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like.
So, not much to the festival, apparently.
Not really. Did not seem like it.
A musical, just so it was a music festival, which explains like why when you type in Cornelia Festival you get this. Okay.
See, that's what they need to use AI for, is fucking animating pictures like that, you know what I mean? Like, when am I gonna get the Harry Potter picture frame of, like, my grandfather and my grandmother in, like, their wedding pictures, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, you should
want.
hear the dystopian bullshit that one of these guys wants to do, which is basically make an AI of you. It has all your memories, like you make like a metaverse character of yourself, and
Oh yeah. No thanks. I know where that goes.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, so that way like the AI can communicate with like your great grandchildren and stuff like that. I'm sitting there, I was like, that's a terrible idea. One, because it's just dystopian as fuck and it's inhumane. But also, like, the reason we don't rely too much on the wisdom of people that are dead for like hundreds of years is because that wisdom is very different, you know? Like, some of it still fits, but like a good portion of it has been outdated. You know?
Magna Graecia, held in honor of Apollo. Hello, this is Ariadne Rainbird, and today
Thanks, Rainbow.
About the ancient Greek festival of the Carnea, a festival of the god Apollon Carneos. Apollon Carneos was a surname and cult aspect of the Greek god Apollon, prominent in Dorian cities like Sparta and its colonies of Thera and Kyrene, thought to be associated with the ram and agricultural virility. His festival, the Carnea, was very important in Dorian traditions. See also my video on Apollon Carneos for a discussion of the name Carnea and
What do you mean,
possible
no?
associations with
We're watching this video
as
right
well
now.
as
We're
the
not going to go
controversy
to another one of her videos in the middle of this
whether
one.
Apollon
Oh,
They need,
no.
to start, they need to start saying that shit at the end. Honestly.
Apollon Karneos is associated with pastoralism, the grape harvest, and natural springs, ensuring access to agricultural resources. The annual celebration of the Karneia was a major event, particularly for the Dorian people. Karneia was one of the tribal traditional festivals of Sparta, the Peloponnese, and Doric cities in Magna Graecia, held in honour of Apollon Karneos. The chief centre of his worship was Sparta, where the Karneia took place every year from the 7th to the 15th of the month Karneos. In the Athenian calendar, that corresponds to Metageitnon, which is around August in the modern calendar.
Yeah, August.
Military operations were suspended. The Karneia appears to have been agrarian, military, and also piacular, that is, to appease or atone in character. In one version of its origins given by Pausanias, it is supposed to commemorate the death of a man called Carnus, who was an Arcanian seer and favourite of Apollon, who, being suspected of espionage, was slain by one of the Heraclidae during the passage of the Dorians from Naupactus to the Peloponneses. By way of punishment, Apollon visited the army with a pestilence which only ceased after the institution of the Karneia. Therefore, the festival was founded to appease the god's anger. Or perhaps Karneia was an old god of fertility who was displaced by Apollon, and Apollon therefore took on his characteristics. The agrarian and military sides of the festival are clearly distinguished within the festival. The importance attached to the festival and its month is shown in several instances in ancient history, particularly when we consider that no warfare was allowed and no military operations during the festival. So, for example, it was responsible for the delay which prevented the Spartans from assisting the Athenians at the Battle of Marathon. And when Epidaurus was attacked in 419 by Argos, the Spartans were unable to act until the end of the month. However, the Argives, whom as Dorians also celebrated Karneia, manipulated their calendar in order to avoid the necessity of suspending war and operations, and so they were able to send forces. It is also due to the Karneia and the ban on warfare during the festival that Leonidas only sent a small advance guard instead of the main Spartan force during the Battle of Thermopylae. The Karneia was also celebrated in the city of Kyrene in North Africa, as attested in Pindar's 5th Pythian Ode.
Yes.
And
But
Callimachus'
what
hymn to
are...
Apollo. See also my video, which has a reading of Callimachus' hymn to Apollo. So what do we know about how the festival was celebrated?
There we go. Now we're getting into juicy stuffs.
Well, it has been written by
Is that an any?
that 5
Don't worry about it.
youths in ancient Greek.
Or was that AI, like, remove this item?
No. So bear in mind, a lot of...
For 4 years to superintend the proceedings, the officiating...
A lot of old statues included genitalia,
Oh, I know. I understand that. I can accept that.
to which most of it got broke off.
Oh.
Either
okay.
because...
That's the broken one. Got
Yeah,
it.
either because of, like, wear and tear over the years, because, like, erosion, shit like that, or also just...
People can't keep their hands off of shit.
Yeah, people not keep their hands off shit.
Have you seen
The
any of
bronze
metal
statues?
Yeah, where they're worn down from people grabbing on their fucking junk and their tits.
There's also the dogs and the cats, where it's like,
Mhm.
the heads are always gold because people pack them.
Yep.
But yes, I do know exactly what you're talking about. We're getting into what the festival actually consists of, though.
The leader. A man decked with garlands started running, pursued by a band of young men, called Staphylothromi, running with branches of grapes in their hands. If the young man was caught, it was seen as a guarantee of good fortune to the city. If not, it was seen as an omen of bad fortune. So the 5 young men called the Carnate were chosen out of each tribe. and one man, decked with garlands, ran away, and the rest followed him. The person whom they chased may have been seen as a temporary incarnation of some spirit of vegetation, and to catch him perhaps signified that fertility was not allowed to escape but had to be captured to ensure the success of the next year's crops. And it may have particularly been associated with the grape harvest, hence the name of the men, the Straphilothrome, the grape runners.
I'm happy to hear how struggling with some of these words.
9 tents were set up in the country, in each of which 9 citizens representing the phratries or obae feasted together in honour of the god. According to Demetrius of Skepsis, in his work Athenaeus 141, the Carneia was an imitation of life in camp, and everything was done in accordance with the command of a herald. In regard to the sacrifice, which doubtless formed part of the ceremonial, all that is known is that a ram was sacrificed at Thurii, a Dorian colony in southern Italy, as part of the Carneia festival celebrated there, according to Demetrius of Skepsis. As an agrarian festival, it has many parallels in North European harvest customs, in which an animal, or a man disguised as an animal, was pursued by the reapers.
Alright, so we're good with this? We know what the Carnania Festival is to a good point now? Ugh. And why it affected the Battle of Thermopylae, because, you know... Ugh. Plagues and shit. You ready to kill things, finally? Excuse me. That was empty coming.
Hold on. If I can... I got a Reddit post that's kind of popping off now.
You get a Reddit post popping off? What did you say on Reddit, do I want to know?
I posted my fucking shit on Reddit. Like my picture, or like the screenshot of my Xbox enforcement action, because I got a comms ban on Xbox.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see it in the other Discord chat, but not offensive whatsoever. Like a regular, like, couple of sentences. If a human would read it, they would see that it's not an offensive thing. But because it's handled by AI, one of the words that I used is just automatically blacklisted. So
What's
I
the
got
VOD?
banned for saying a word.
Do I want to know?
Probably modded. I would have to say.
Because you said modded, you're facing a communication ban on Xbox. It's crazy.